You remember this thing, of course. Well, in case you don't, or in case you're new here, this is a CX500 I've been building, and we had it almost done until I had some more issues with the paintwork that we had to have redone. So this is an all-out build. We have everything on this. So because this has been such a long gap between when it was last on the channel, I feel like there are going to be a lot of you who have not seen this bike or are not as familiar with it. So I will try to do a quick rundown of just some of the things done to this thing, because I have slaved over this bike for a couple of years now, and I've done a lot of fabrication. I've done a lot of changes to it, and we actually call this thing grandfather's axe because there's like nothing left of the original bike except for maybe like this much of the backbone that's not modified in some way. So to give you the general, the basic things done to this though are a Ducati 900 SS rear shock that I built a monoshock system for. So it's a non-linkage style monoshock setup. So it has a pretty high rate on it, and currently this one's sitting on, I think, like a 850 pound per inch spring, and that was custom spec by Racetech. And I have braced the swing arm down here. I went ahead and did that because these things were not designed to be a monoshock from the factory. I've done a couple without a brace. I've never had any issues, but I feel more comfortable having that because we are putting more power down, and I want this thing to be ridden pretty hard. Moving outside of the monoshock, built this entire subframe section, and kind of my style, I always like doing an upswept rear hoop. I have a flush mounted LED strip in here from Radiance, and I built this fiberglass hump, built the seat pan, we modified the tank, and it's moved back and repositioned to kind of give it a better belt line, so to speak. Up front, bodywork wise, we have a dart fly screen over actually just a generic Bates headlight. It's a side mount 5 3/4, but I do have a different lens insert in it, and then I've custom made the mounts and everything for it, so it's nice and clean. And beyond that, the front end is off of a 2005 GSXR 1000. Now, I had some issues originally with that front end. It came with the bike, but it had mixed match parts on there, so I actually had trouble deciphering what exact year it was because somebody had an incorrect lower and upper triple combination, so the offset was off by 2 millimeters, and it was just kind of a nightmare figuring out exactly what it should have been. But regardless, you can kind of get the idea. It's a 05 GSXR 1000, and all it took was just an all balls conversion bearing set. And up top we have a Cognito Moto top triple. It's billet and it's anodized in black. We have some of their bar risers on there, converting it to 1 1/8 inch handlebars to pair with the Renthal fat bars that we have on here. I always prefer like a tracker style upright bar position. It's far more comfortable than doing clip-ons, and a lot of times you have a lot better clearance with your controls to your tank and stuff like that. So that's always something I want to do. Rolling gear wise, this thing's sitting on a beautiful set of Cognito Moto laced wheels. So it has the Cognito Moto GSXR front billet hub, and then the CX500 rear billet hub. Those are laced to a set of Warp 9 36-hole anodized blue rims. And then we have some Pirelli Rosso 3 tires on here, and this is a 140 in the back. I get this question a lot, if a 150 will fit. Now, this fits perfectly fine. It's like a bolt-on type tire. It looks proportional to the bike. And with what Cognito had told me, they said if you try a 150, I guess depending on the tire, you might have to clearance the swing arm. So just know I used a 140 based off the information they gave me, and I feel this fits great, looks great, and I wouldn't want to make any changes beyond that. Now, being that it's a GSXR 1000 front end, we have some trash can lid 320 mil rotors on this thing, and it's got brakes for days, so we could pull one rotor off and still far surpass anything the stock setup could have done. So that's pretty cool, looks pretty awesome on there, and they are going to be plenty. So covering that front wheel, since we're still on the topic of the front end, that's actually a fender I found on eBay for a BMW R9T. Not sure I'd recommend it. Shipped from like Indonesia or something like that in a trash bag, came broken, and we had to repair it, but you know, it does look okay on there. I had to make mounts for it and retrofit it to the GSXR front end. But I'd seen the photo of it. I kind of liked the size and I liked the shape. It was just minimalist enough to look okay with the rest of the bike while still having a fender. So just think it looks right at home on there though. Just looks really good. So continuing on the chassis, I want to highlight the shift linkage I made here, and this was taken by Purpose Built Moto. They had a great article and kind of design, so no sense in reinventing the wheel. I have a video on doing that. Came out beautiful, works great, and it's a very trick piece. So take a look at that, and then those are mated to a set of Dime City Cycles indexable rear sets here, and these are billet, they're well made, and I really like these rear sets. So the kickstand here, I handmade this as well. Really trick piece. I really like how that came out. It's using the factory mounts or the factory mounting bosses on the block itself. And I have a bar tied in all the way across that and then tied in with 2 mounts to the oil pan bolts. So it's very steady, very sturdy, and clean when done. So we got rid of all that mess back here. The big change with this is the engine. This is actually out of a GL650, so that's why we're seeing CX650 badges here. So GL650, 1983, we've upped the capacity, and basically to do this swap, modified the upper cradle mount here, just to move the studs up and out a little bit to work with the larger, the larger stroke engine, and fits great. Beyond that, I have rebuilt it, and it's just built to factory specs, except for when we get up to the cylinder heads. Up there, I have done a light port match. I had built these intake manifolds to fit these Mikuni VM34s to it. And the port match was just to kind of smooth out the casting and stuff in the head itself. Not polish it, but just smooth it out, make it blend, make it flow nice. So I don't know if I want to call it a full-blown like porting job or anything like that, but I think it definitely will add some performance and some snappiness to it. But exiting, it exits through a custom-made, like I handmade all this stainless exhaust here. Came out beautiful. It's a 2-in-1 setup, and it exits through a Competition Works muffler. And again, all stainless, and it's beautiful. It's kind of obnoxious actually, but man, we really like it. Keeping this whole thing cool, we have actually the stock CX500 Radiator. I measured fluid-wise, I measured cores and everything like that, and it seemed like the CX500 was actually bigger. But I did convert it to an electric fan. Obviously the 650 engine was already an electric fan, but I went ahead and modified the radiator with a Suzuki Bandit 1250 fan. It's a pretty large one. And to control that, I have an NWT Becky unit here, which is a soft start. So it's a pulse width modulated soft start setup. So that fan, whenever it kicks on, it kind of ramps it up slowly instead of having that initial current inrush. And drain, potentially just wiping voltage out from anywhere else on the bike. So let's see, fire and everything off. We have an Ultima coil under here, kind of coming from the Harley Davidson world. Made some mounts for that. We have a Rix regulator rectifier under the tank and its MOSFET, so stays nice and cool. We have the NWT Morty system in here, and I've wired that to a set of CBR controls, which this whole thing is great, works flawless. And then, let's see, what else do we got? There's just a lot of trick stuff on here, so I'm trying to remember it all at this point. Down low, actually, this part's hard to see, but I made an oil catch can system. So it's anything that expels through the crankcase breather, runs through there, handmade all that, and it's nice and tucked out of the way. You barely even see it. So that was a really cool, just side project. As far as fabricating things like that, I'd also made the overflow tank out of aluminum for the radiator, so that's a nice trick piece as well. And that has a nice, knurled billet cap on there. It's just a really cool setup, really clean. And then kind of monitoring it all, we have a Koso DB02R, I believe. It's a nice compact digital cluster setup. Looks killer. I like how it functions too. Just have to iron out the tack signal at this point because every bike's a little bit different how it wants to read. So I think I might have to put a resistor in there, kind of slow down the feed, and we'll be good to go. But the paintwork and the seat, this is done by Slipstream Creations, the paintwork, and I drew up a rendition of the Honda Wing logo And the challenge here, the thing I wanted to achieve, was to bring in the red from the engine plaques, the valve covers, and then match the kind of the lines that I'm going for and tie that into something that all looks appropriate. So this is just nice, a clean white with a nice red that pops. And we bring the lines up at that angle. Obviously it's a rendition on the Honda wing. I think it worked out perfect. And we have that tied back into the Honda Racing logo back here on the fiberglass cowl. So the seat, this was done by Rich Phillips. I have him make all of my seats, and I have videos again on all of this stuff. But this is wrapped in ultra suede. Decided to go with a blue because why not? Looks cool. So did a blue with a set of inserts here that are a lighter contrast blue, red stitch, and again we're matching the patterns here. The inlay patterns to the tank and everything, and the shapes of the valve covers, so everything matches. We have a nice theme. Everything is very cohesive, and I just really love how this thing came out. So now that we have this thing back in the shop, the mission is to get it running. Got to clean it up, get it running, and then tomorrow I've got a little photo shoot with it. And from there, just a little final carb tuning on it, and this thing is done. Well, I have not had this thing started since probably June. It's 2 days after Christmas right now. So just threw some gas in it. You know, put the petcock on earlier. I have fuel to the carbs. I've already pulled the spark plugs out at one point, rotated the engine, kind of built up, just circulated some oil. But as of now, let's give this thing a go. I know that wasn't such a quick rundown, but we did a rundown and I did the best I could. There's just a lot of detail in this bike, in every single component and aspect, whether it be polished bolts or the way I ran lines, or there's just endless details on it, and that's what I really like to do. So if this is a new project to you, or if you haven't seen it before, please consider going through the playlist and checking like if you have a question on the front forks, I have front fork videos with detailed descriptions and parts links and what I used, literally everywhere. Every part number is for this bike is within the description in one of those videos. So before asking a question here, please consider going through, checking those out, and don't be mad whenever, if you do ask a question, I'm just going to send you the video link because it's all there. So anyway, hope you guys like this one. The next videos you're going to see on it hopefully will be some running videos or riding videos. I'll put some clips together and we'll work on that build time lapse. I know those are always really cool, really fun. And yeah, so anyway, if you haven't already, follow me on social media, just Brickhouse Builds across the board. You can see me playing around with this thing every day. And go a step further, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you guys like this one. Hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.